There's at least one more move the Miami Hurricanes would like to make in the transfer portal. Are they going to get it done? And who's the primary competition?
You are Locked On Canes, your daily podcast on the Miami Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I am Alex Donno, University of Miami alumnus, longtime South Florida sports radio vet, co-host of Locked On ACC. Thank you so much to the everydayers for making Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We're going to talk on this episode about where Miami sits in CBS's Power Rankings for the ACC. Are we sleeping on Miami's defensive backfield? Because there are some young players who will need to step up. Will they step up this year? We're going to continue to define what it would look like for the Miami Hurricanes to be quote-unquote back. But yeah, we're going to talk some transfer portal. This episode of Locked On Canes is brought to you by Monopoly Go. This fast-paced game lets you team up with friends for tournaments to unlock awesome prizes like unique stickers for trading, cool playing pieces, and hilarious emojis for taunting your friends. So download Monopoly Go, now free on Google Play or the App Store. Game on. So I don't know if Miami's back, but I know the truth teller is back. Bruce Warner is with us. And Bruce, I feel bad for making fun of you on my episode last night. It was around 6:15 p.m. I said I couldn't find Bruce. I think you were in bed. You were actually in the hospital. I don't know if you should be here right now, Bruce, but are you feeling okay?
Well, I'm feeling better. I'm not better, and that's why I went back. So they gave me prednisone now, which is stronger than what they gave me before, a stronger cough medicine. They gave me more solution, a stronger solution that goes in the nebulizer. So I use it 4 times a day to breathe with it. So I'm hoping it's, excuse me, breaks this up.
There you go. Jeez.
But I watched that show about Miami being back. I mean, what kind of BS is that? I was going to say something else. But, who's saying that? Listen, you're one of the biggest homers of all time. And although sometimes Mr. Negativity, I'm pretty upbeat about. And I never said that.
No. And
I know that's not. I don't think that's coming from Miami fans. Who's saying this? Florida State?
Well, that's the thing. So we were going through it yesterday for ESPN. They're way too early top 25, and they do include Miami, like their preseason pre-ranking is Miami at number 24. But they go through all the teams in their too early top 25, and they give the quote-unquote overreaction. And for most of the teams, it was like a negative statement. They're like, no, that's an overreaction. You'll be fine. Florida State's offense bad? No, we think they're great. Clemson's offense is going to be terrible. No, we think they're going to be really good. For Miami, the overreaction was Miami is back. And again, Bruce, that's this tag. The national media puts that out there for Miami every single year. And then so the Florida State and Florida fans are like, look at those delusional idiots in Miami. They're saying they're back. Well, not actually us that's saying it. But every year we go on this same carousel.
Yeah, and you're giving them airtime on this ridiculous statement that no one's made down here yet. So you know what? I'd say forget them. Listen, by the way, I saw Florida State is picked number 1 in the ACC. Wait a minute. The last time I checked, they don't have their quarterback. They lost 2 running backs, including Trey Benson. They lost their tight end, Raheem Bell, and they lost both receivers. Where are they going with 5 new players?
They got a lot of talent. They got a lot of talent.
But are anybody picking us?
Very, very few. But the thing is, like, Miami, outside of, the people who claim, oh, maybe Miami's back this year. Yeah, I do agree Miami actually has to show it because they've been sub 500 in the ACC the last couple of years. So they got to show they can beat these teams consistently. So, yeah, Florida State has a lot of new important players, but they have shown it in more recent memory, Bruce. But if Miami's going to get to that point, we've got to have a strong finish and stick the landing in the transfer portal. I mentioned, Bruce, at least one more move Miami wants to make, if not 2, because I think the Hurricanes would like to land both a defensive back and they would like to land defensive end Tyler Baron, who they're in a pretty good position with. We'll talk about him for a second.
Right.
Now, Matt Zenitz on 24/7 went through some of the top remaining transfer portal targets. Miami's in it for 2 of the top 4 guys, okay? They're in it for the number 2 available player right now. That's King Mack, who's a former St. Thomas Aquinas standout safety who started his career last year at Penn State. Didn't play a whole lot there. He hit the transfer portal. Now, Bruce, I think Alabama is going to be very tough to beat here for King Mack. He visited Bama this past weekend, and according to Zenitz, the Crimson Tide seem to be in a strong position with the former top 90 overall recruit. Other teams have been working to get involved with Mack as well, including Miami, but Alabama appears to be trending with him right now. I think Miami, though, Bruce, is in a much better spot with Tyler Baron, the edge rusher who played with the Tennessee Volunteers, briefly transferred to Louisville. He's back in the transfer portal. This is a player I would love to have here. Now, I think grabbing another top defensive end is more of a luxury pick. Now, Baron, if you pick up Baron, he would be one of your best edge rushers.
Well, I wouldn't say he's a luxury. It takes the pressure off number 44, and some of those young kids we saw when we went down to the practice.
Yeah.
You don't want to throw them in as the backup. If you can get a kid like this, and you know what? And that's hedging your bet on Messidor, because we haven't seen him play in a long time, and we really don't know what he's capable of doing. What happens if he doesn't like those shoes and they have to make it again? That's very precarious position to be in.
True.
And then as far as the defensive back, is he coming to Miami to visit, or he's shut it down because he went to Bama?
I don't think we know yet. We don't know if he's coming.
Well, we better find out, darn it. Isn't that your responsibility? I'm sick, man. I can't be doing all this stuff.
You got to get in his ear and do some recruiting for us. But no, listen, maybe I was being a little generous when I referred to Baron as a luxury pick. I just used that word because Miami does have a pretty deep rotation. But like you said, Messidor coming off injury, he's going to have those special shoes. Now, Miami did already pick up Elijah Alston in the last portal opening, who I think could be very much a starter on the edge. You have Ruben Baron, of course. You've got a good young rotation of players there. So here's what they say, the latest on Baron from 24/7. The top 3 has been known for the past several days, Bruce. Miami, Ole Miss, USC continue to be among the teams to watch with Baron, who re-entered the transfer portal after spending the spring in Louisville. Baron, who posted 6 sacks last season at Tennessee, visited USC this past weekend. It came after a week after visiting Miami and a few days after an in-home visit with Ole Miss. Now, Baron, what I love about this player, Bruce, is he's got all the tangibles, including the size at 6'5", 256, pushing 260 pounds. And I love the fact that he's got proven SEC experience, right? Because listen, sometimes
I agree. And I don't really trust the kid to be able to seal the edge, which is kind of what we were watching when he was working with Jason Taylor that day. But I'd rather have a veteran back there backing up Messidor, because we've had problems sealing the edge and containing these running backs from getting to the outside. So it's more than just sacks and things like that. I just rather have a bigger, more mature kid in the 2 deep all across the board. And that would make me feel better, because I know we could put the young kids in to get experience. They can play in 4 blowout games or whatever, but I don't necessarily want him in the 2 deep. He's too raw as far as I'm concerned.
Well, still on this episode, I do want to talk a little bit about Miami's defensive backfield, because yes, the Hurricanes have looked at some players, including one that ended up picking Indiana to follow his coach in D'Angelo Pons, who's off the table. King Mack seems to be on the table, but Alabama could be tough to beat. But are we underrating some of Miami's younger defensive backs? And we'll talk about that power ranking in the ACC as well. Got the truth teller with us. The man was just in the hospital yesterday. He's on Locked On Canes today. His doctor's going to be calling me what are you doing? This guy needs to rest. There is no rest for us here on this brand new episode of Locked On Canes. You want to keep it locked. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you will always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Thank you so much for making this episode of Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today. We're free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And for the everydayers, if you want to keep yourselves updated, you want to join the Locked On Canes Insiders chat. I include the link in the show description below. Click the link, become a Locked On Canes Insider. Try it free for 2 weeks. You get text messages directly from my phone to yours with recruiting and transfer portal scoops, breaking news updates. Obviously, once the workouts get started again, we'll be talking everything Miami football. We're active on there. Try it free for 2 weeks. Then if you like it, you can opt in for $4.99 a month. We give you a lot of added value on there on the Locked On Canes Insiders. And Bruce, I do want to add one more thing on Tyler Baron. The perception, and this is my perception, is that Miami does seem to be in the lead. I don't know if it's a huge lead or a slight lead over Ole Miss and USC. We know Miami has been super aggressive in this transfer portal. So Miami does seem to be the team to beat there for Tyler Baron. But Mr. Warner, as I mentioned on yesterday's episode, he knows he's got leverage, right? It's a seller's market because it's a thin market right now for top edge rushers. He is the guy out there right now, and he understands he doesn't need to necessarily rush into a decision.
Well, I've negotiated these deals in the past. You know what? Sometimes money is not that different from one school to the next. It's where you want to play and what's your opportunity. I don't know what's going on in Mississippi, but I know we need a defensive lineman. We need to fix the defense. We're getting very close. He should be thrilled to play with this team. What does he have, 1 year?
I think he's got 1 year. Yeah, he's a
now, doesn't he have a shoulder problem? Yeah. Doesn't he have like a shoulder that he's out for like till fall camp?
I've heard that rumor. I mean, I know that every team that he visited conducted a physical, so there seems to be like a comfort level that he's not going to miss time. But I don't know how that may affect his fall camp availability.
Right. Well, look, I want this kid. I want another DB, and then I'm willing to go on those shows when you go on with those other characters from Florida and Florida State. And I didn't watch that particular one, but the Florida guy, what was he saying? The Gators are going to win?
I think he said Gators by 90, I think is what Brandon Olsen said. He's very confident. He thinks it's going to be a bigger beatdown than what Georgia put on FSU, apparently.
Maybe I ought to go take out $250,000 from my bank and bet one of those prop things, like maybe Miami's going to go scoreless. Maybe I had to waste $250,000 listening to that idiot. I'm listening to him. You know what? I don't care what any of those Gators fans do. And my buddy Barry Burke, who owns Austin Burke, he's a big-time Gator. They lost a lot of key people in a lot of key positions. The coach is on the hot seat. If we could jump out on these guys, I wouldn't want to be that coach because they're going to get screamed at if we blow them out, he's not going to make it through the rest of the season with that schedule. Wow. That's a hell of a schedule.
Oh, they've got, technically toughest schedule in the country. I mean, you don't really know until you see how good those teams actually are. But like preseason power rankings, Gators have one of the 2 toughest schedules in the country.
So I was saying to you before, or we talked about a couple of things. One, I said the guys that we lost that left Miami. Any of those guys really concern you that they're not here?
Well, see,
it's not performance. We could say Nigel Lee Kelly, but he didn't do anything.
Right. And these are like Nigel Leak, if he can stay healthy, and I don't know how far along he is in his recovery, I think he could do a good job at UCF. Yeah. Like same thing with Jakari Brown, but it's like that's not a guy who's going to hurt you this year because you got Cam Ward this year. Right. And then, at the time when Jared Harrison Hunt left, Bruce, I said this could be impactful because this guy was going to play a lot. Then Miami goes out and gets Simeon Barrow, and I'm not really worried about losing that guy anymore. Right. And that's why I always say, because right after Harrison Hunt left, I got a couple comments on Locked On Canes YouTube from, someone who was purportedly a Canes fan. Again, it might have been one of these Seminoles fans who just likes to stir things up in the comments was like, hey, we're in big trouble with Harris and Hunt leaving, and Miami's not going to be as good. And my response was, okay, Miami's not done adding players in the transfer portal. Let's not judge the impact of some of these players leaving until we see who comes in. Simeon Barrow, by all accounts, is a better player than Jared Harris and Hunt. I wish JHH the best at in Dallas with SMU, but I think Miami upgraded there.
I think when Justin Scott gets here, maybe 4 or 5 games into the season, he's better than Harris and Hunt too.
Maybe. On the other end, and you bring up Nigel Lee Kelly, and I wish him all the best. Great young man, great family. But and Miami again is not done. If Miami brings in Tyler Barron, he's proven a lot more on the field to this point than Nigel Leak has. So again, I'm not going to judge, the outgoings versus the incomings completely until Miami's totally done in the portal, because I think the team is better. The team is getting. I mean, a lot of the people were like, oh, with Henry Parrish leaving, that was Miami's leading rusher the last 2 years. Well, what did Miami do? They go out and get Damien Martinez, which makes you forget all about the guy who left.
Yeah, and Lyle will be here in a few weeks, and that kid's supposed to be really explosive. He's got every combination there is: speed, power. He's tough. Look, he hasn't been a blocker much in his career, but he'll get in and he'll have some carries. He will, and I think, and the kid that came from Wisconsin last year, AJ Allen, in spots,
Nebraska,
he did really well. In spots, he did very well. He was very good, tough runner. So we'll be fine.
So Miami obviously has made they've upgraded a lot of positions in the transfer portal. I think the one that we talk about, it's a little bit of a question mark, certain spots in the defensive backfield, Bruce. Now, a lot of fans out there actually would prefer Miami not bring in so many players in the portal, and why don't we allow some of these guys who are heading into their second year, third year, give them opportunities to play. That could be what ends up happening in the defensive backfield, Bruce, because if I'm not guaranteeing Miami ends up coming away with another defensive back, and even if they do come away with King Mack, who's really fast, he's got bona fide track speed, a safety that Miami did like coming out of high school a couple years ago at St. Thomas Aquinas. He's only heading into his second year. So he's not like, you don't put him in the same category as a Mish Powell who's heading into his senior year and he's got multiple years of starts. So if Miami does have to rely on a little bit more youth in the safety room, Bruce, let's say. Now, Miami did bring in Powell, who I don't know for sure if he's going to get more of his reps at the nickel spot or more of his reps at safety. I'm sure he'll play at least some of both, okay? Yeah, but then also, you've got a couple players heading into their third year, and you could argue these players do deserve an opportunity to play and compete to start. Jaden Harris, he's a redshirt sophomore. I watched him every day at spring football, had a really good spring. This is someone who learned a lot from Cam Kinchins as his understudy the last couple of years. Jaden Harris started 2 games in place of Kinchins when he had the concussion last year, played pretty well. He played in 10 games last season. I also think people sleep probably too much on Markeith Williams, who's another redshirt sophomore. He played in 11 games last year, had 15 tackles, tackle for loss, and a pass breakup. And then Bruce,
I mentioned him last year when I went to the practice before. I mentioned Markeith. He had a couple of pass interferences, but I'd rather have that than have no defender anywhere on the screen when you're watching the game. So, but he's tough. He fights. He's a little undersized, but he'll get.
He's a little skinny.
Time. Yeah, he's a little skinny. He needs to. I didn't think he got any thicker this year. To me, that was his one weakness because he reads the offense well. He's in a lot of places at the right time. But you know what else? Like you said, there's defensive people here, but Mario doesn't make all those calls. You know who makes the calls? The DB coach and Lance Guidry. Now, if they don't think these guys are good enough, then who are you or me to say, don't go out and get any more? We have enough guys. Let the young kids play.
Yeah.
No, they know more than we do when it comes to that,
But what I'm saying is like, Don't cry. Like, I'm not saying to you, just in general, like, if Miami doesn't bring in somebody else, don't cry too much about the guys that they have. Because another one, true freshman, I know, but you can't tell me Zaquan Patterson won't be ready to get some reps out there at safety. Like, he is the guy for the future.
He'll be out there. He's going to be in there a lot.
Yeah.
A lot. Obviously, you don't. It's what's funny. A young kid like that, and Jaden Harris, and Markeith Williams could over pursue. They could bite on a play fake and get beat. Guess what? Isn't that what we saw the last 2 years with Kinchins, Mr. All World, and Williams? I mean, we saw them blow plays left and right. So I don't care how many stars you have. You got to get the job done. And yes, Kinchins made a lot of great plays, but he also blew it. Blew it in the Georgia Tech game. Not that his was the last mistake. The first one was to let him run the damn ball, and the second one was this ridiculous calls by the referees.
Yeah.
Which we can't get screwed anymore. We got to beat these teams flat out, and it's enough. The end of the game is if the games are going in the fourth quarter and everybody's leaving the stadiums, home or away. That's what I want to see. Just kick everybody's ass and go home.
So, Bruce, I had thrown this out there on yesterday's episode with the national media trying to throw out this "is Miami back" narrative. And I had asked our listeners to define, because, you know, I can't say Miami's back until they show it to me. Like, you got to show me. I'm not going to proclaim it in an offseason. You got to show me you're back. How would you define back, Bruce? What would Miami have to accomplish on the field for Bruce Warner to say the Canes are back?
Maybe 2 or 3 years of getting into the playoffs. That may be back. The real word back. If they get into it this year and next year they go 7-5, they're not back.
Exactly.
They never did that before. In the 80s and the 90s, they never went 7-5. What was the worst record they ever had? 9-3, 10-2, maybe.
Probably.
Jimmy lost 5 games in 5 seasons. In 5 seasons, he lost 5 games. So, you know, that's back to me. They make the playoffs this year. They're still not back. They have to keep doing it. And they have the right foundation now and the right coach and the right staff to get to that point. And that would be great. Then you could say they're back. By the way, you reminded me. I think I'm going to try to reach out to Chris Fowler, because I told you this. I took him down to the apartments, and this was the week of Wide Right 2. And we went down to Caesar and Stephen McGuire's apartment, and Kelvin was there, and Anthony Hamlin. I don't think Leon was there. He might have been there. But anyway, he was saying that Florida State's loaded and blah, blah, blah. And those guys spent 3 hours trash talking Florida State. And on Saturday pregame show, or whatever they call that show, when they do the picking,
college game day,
he's the only one that picked the Canes. He told Corso, he told whoever else was there with him at the time. I don't think it was the quarterback from Ohio State. What's his name?
Herb Street. Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, he hadn't started broadcasting yet.
But whoever else was there, he just said, "I'm telling you right now, they're not afraid of these guys, and this is going to be a war." He said, "I'm picking Miami." And then there was a Sports Illustrated article about him, and they asked him, "What's your greatest interview?" He said, "It's an interview that nobody will ever see. It was down at the U." So I want to try to call him and get him on here and let him explain about what it's back to ESPN, which seems to be the big mouths that say we're back or we're not back, you know?
Yeah. I love that. Well, we have a detail on when Damien Martinez is going to be starting his official workouts at Miami, when his enrollment is going to happen, plus ACC Power Ranking. Where does CBS Sports put the Miami Hurricanes? We're not done yet, folks. You want to keep it locked right here on this brand new Locked On Canes. And I already know you're keeping it locked to Monopoly Go. In Monopoly Go, you can team up with friends for timed tournaments where you work together to build up each other's boards. The more you win together, the more awesome prizes you unlock. And there's so much to get. Unique stickers you could trade with friends to complete albums for big prizes. Cool new playing pieces to travel the boards with. Hilarious emojis for taunting friends when you smash their buildings and heist their vaults. Plus, Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges. A ton include their own unique mini games like digging for treasure or a robot pachinko machine. And there's always new timed events that help you win big, like massive multipliers for everything you win or rent frenzies. There's always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go. So get off the bench and go download it now free on Google Play or the App Store. It's game on with Monopoly Go. Wouldn't it be great if you could see all of your investment and retirement accounts in one place? With Yahoo Finance, you can consolidate your views from multiple accounts into one hub and access the expert analysis you need to tend to your entire portfolio with confidence. For more than 25 years, Yahoo Finance has been the brand behind every great investor. Whether you're a seasoned investor or you're looking for that extra guidance, Yahoo Finance gives you all the tools and data you need in one place. They are the #1 finance destination, producing a holistic look at the financial news cycle, including breaking news, original editorial perspectives, analyst ratings, independent research, customizable charts, and so much more. Securely link your brokerage accounts for a unified view of your wealth, including 401k and other investments. A comprehensive perspective is what sets apart great investors, and it's how Yahoo Finance ensures you have the insight to look at your wealth in its entirety. With a community of over 90 million users each month, their real strength is helping you on your way to financial success. For comprehensive financial news and analysis, visit the brand behind every great investor, yahoofinance.com. It's the #1 financial destination, yahoofinance.com. That's yahoofinance.com. Thank you so much for making this Truth Teller Tuesday on a Wednesday episode of Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today. We're free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. So, Bruce,
this is the hospital edition of the Truth Teller, right?
There's been a couple times when you started these little coughing fits when I'm like, I got the emergency, like the SOS here on my phone. Like I'm ready to call in an ambulance to your location at any point necessary, Bruce. At any point, I'm ready.
I want to take. I know you're going to give us the ACC rankings, but Florida State first and Clemson. We beat Clemson last year, and they don't go into the portal.
Right.
We almost beat Florida State on the road. They didn't beat us badly enough. 7 points, and we had the ball coming down the stretch. And our team,
and then we had to put interception Van Dyke in to seal.
But our team's loaded now. Our offense should be unstoppable. I don't see anybody in the ACC like this on paper, and we've seen them not on paper. We've watched them play. The tight ends are healthy. They have a great running back. They got Ward. The wide receivers, and now we picked up another kid. I mean, how do you pick Florida State when they lost both running backs to quarterback, both wide receivers a tight end? They lost Verse and that kid Fisk from the defensive line, that number 55. They lost about 3 or 4 DBs and a linebacker. Where are they picking them? I mean, I don't care. Pick them.
They made some pickups. I mean, Marvin Jones Jr. on the defensive line. That dude looks like a player. Earl Little in the defensive backfield. You know, they've got good running backs. Toa Feely, and they picked up another one in the transfer. I think the big question for them, though, quarterback and wide receivers, because I'm not sold on DJ Uiagalelei. I mean, he's very experienced. He's got a high floor. He can manage an offense. He's not necessarily a playmaker. He's not a game changer. So do they have the receivers? Because their receiving core hasn't looked that good. But real quick, Bruce, before we get to that, Matt Shodell at Kane Sport shared an update on Damien Martinez. So he can't officially enroll at Miami until June 17th. That's summer 2. Because he's finishing up his Oregon State classes online. So because of that, Shodell writes, he's not allowed in the facilities till June 17th. So he's going to be in Tampa training with House of Athlete till he arrives. So this isn't like a huge thing, Bruce, because obviously he's going to be staying in, because what's going on right now at Miami are, like off-season workouts. So, if he's doing that, and I'm assuming he's going to be working out very hard in another location, it's not like fall camp doesn't start until the end of July. So it's not that big of a deal.
Our playbook.
Right.
With our playbook, not theirs.
Yeah, exactly. So just to let people know, if you're hanging around campus looking for Damien Martinez, you're not going to see him for about a month and a half, a little over a month. June 17th is when you're see him summer 2. But he'll be fine. He'll be there more than in time for fall camp. He'll be there about a month and a half before fall camp begins.
I'm looking forward to the young kids coming in. Scott,
absolutely.
A lot of these guys, I want to see them.
Yeah, I think a lot of those guys will be here for summer 1, which starts later this month. I think at the end of May, and then summer 2 starts mid-June. All right, so yeah, Bruce, you were spot on with CBS Sports' ACC post-spring power rankings. They just updated these to reflect transfer portal additions and what we saw in spring games. And they do have Florida State at number 1, Clemson at number 2, Miami at 3. They write about Florida State. Mike Norvell's use of the portal to roll off 23 wins across the last 2 seasons makes it easy to give Florida State the benefit of the doubt as the Seminoles welcome in yet another loaded class of instant impact additions. They say while DJ Uiagalelei will demand a lot of attention from the class, we're more invested in Marvin Jones Jr., as am I, and a defense that has a lot to replace, but boasts high-level playmakers on the edge and in the secondary. With Clemson, they say there is definitely a 1A, 1B conversation here. Florida State has the crown for now, but has done enough work in the offseason to has it done enough work, they say, to retool the roster. Clemson, meanwhile, is mostly looking for player development to pay off in flipping some of those close losses from 2023 into wins. I do feel like, Bruce, that a lot of people really try to romanticize Clemson because Dabo literally does not take transfers. I think a lot of people out there are rooting for that to work, right? To rely in this day and age when you've got, in most other major programs, dozens of players leaving, dozens of players coming in to replace those players who leave. You know, Clemson did lose some players, but they're not replacing them in the portal. They are relying strictly on development. Now, I personally believe that's going to hurt their depth to the point where I don't take Clemson that seriously as an ACC title contender. Like, I do think Florida State should be the favorite till proven otherwise. I think Miami can be in second place in the ACC. There are other teams I do not sleep on, but I don't take Clemson as realistically as a competitor as some people do because depth is going to be tough for them.
But you said, I hope it works. Why?
I don't say I hope it works. I think a lot of people hope it works.
I hope they fail miserably. Then who's going to want to go to Clemson?
No, I didn't mean to say. I think a lot of people hope it works because they romanticize this idea that Dabo's not doing it the NFL free agent way. I'm not saying I hope it works. I think a lot of people. I
thought I heard you say that. Maybe these guys who were watching could write it. I don't. But anyway,
maybe I did say it. I didn't mean it.
Want them, but you know what? Let us be third. That's fine. That's fine. This way, we can't go around saying we're back. We're not back yet. We didn't do anything. You know, we got to beat Florida and take it from there. And every game we have to win. We got to go out and play our rear ends off. No more taking quarters off or halves or coming out.
Right.
We're trailing all the time. And I put a lot of this on Mario, and I'm not a Mario basher, but I think the use of the timeouts was horrific.
Mm-hmm.
Failing to use them is just as bad. I did not think that this team came out ready to play, and I'd say at least 9 or 10 of the games. We came out sleepwalking. Now I'm screaming at the TV, or I'm up in the players' suite, and I'm screaming, and everybody's with me screaming. And you should have heard it in the fourth quarter against Clemson. We're down 7. You should have heard those guys. I mean, every one of them in there was screaming, throw it a guy.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't really say that word. They used the F word.
Sure.
And I'm sitting, and I'm up there, and Jimmy Johnson was up there, and Dennis was up there, and they're cursing their brains. All of them, they were all screaming. But you know what? I guess they knew what he was doing because they won.
Yes, so
I guess
pulled
so. It out.
Well, I appreciate you working sick today, Bruce. Go get that IV or whatever. If you need to go back to the hospital, I hope you're going to be all right. He is the truth teller. We love him. I appreciate everybody for making Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today. We'll talk to you again next time on another episode of Locked On Canes. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.